Welcome to the Bookistrator, where I share the stories I love through illustration. Right here at the beginning, I'm still getting over being sick, and my voice is going to be a little croaky. Please bear with me. Because boy, do I have a weird and special video to share with you all today. In December of last year, I shared a video about the phenomenal game Elden Ring. In today's, we'll be talking about games made by the same company, From Software. It's their famous trilogy, Dark Souls. I have a very odd relationship with these games. I don't play combat-heavy games, as I don't have the consoles, the computer power, or the interest in playing them. But I love the storytelling, especially in the FromSoft catalog. Really quick, I first learned about this game from a channel I watch frequently called Secret Sleepover Society. Check out their VODs on YouTube. They are an awesome channel that likes to focus on the fun of games more than what is popular, and I love them for it. Anyway, I was introduced to Dark Souls by Julia Lepetite, the wife of the channel's married duo. She streamed her first time playing the game, and I was absolutely hooked. Dark Souls is a heavy combat RPG with vague but expansive lore, and some of the hardest bosses in the world of gaming. And while I've seen Julia's playthrough of the first game multiple times, it's genuinely my comfort show. In early 2025, I found a new channel that took my understanding of this game and my connection to the community who loves it as much as I do, to a whole new level. Today, my friends, we will indeed be talking about Dark Souls, but through the lens of the best playthrough I've ever seen of the trilogy, and the player's name is Wugs. Wugs is a guy who makes highly edited and super enjoyable videos about his gaming experiences. They are hilarious and serious, and genuine and entertaining. He's been making his way through the From Software catalog since February of 2024, when he began with Demon Souls, widely the least loved of their series. From there, he played through all of Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, and is currently at the tail end of his Bloodborne experience. I love these games, obviously. I've mentioned them several times in other episodes, and plan on making videos for each game on its own, where I will go way more in depth. But for this piece, I wanted to make a gift for a streamer who I admire. To me, the story I want to tell about his playthrough and Dark Souls itself is best explained through a very specific game mechanic, a bonfire. As you make your way out of the scary and confusing prison where your character starts off, you're dropped by a large bird into the ruins of a place called Firelink. There, you're given vague directions to follow in order to progress the game, along with the means to rejuvenate your life each time you die. This is done by touching a sword rammed into a skeleton that lights on fire. Pretty metal, right? Sitting at this flame allows you to add strength to your character by converting the souls you've taken from enemies and pulling them into your own body. The bonfires are not the only places to rest where you can regain your health and level up your character. They are also respawning points. When you are killed by an enemy, poisoned, or fall off a cliff, your character will resurrect at the most recent bonfire you lit. The warm glow and soothing crackle of the flames is a very welcome sight to players, as it gives you a much closer spot to restart your journey. There are 45 bonfires in Dark Souls 1, but none are more beloved than Firelink. Except for maybe the one at the base of Blighttown, if you know, you know. This is the hub where characters you meet in the game will flock to, offering their services and lessons. It's also one of the most connected places, as each doorway leading from this area eventually circles you back in ways you hadn't previously imagined. In Wugs' playthrough, one of the most iconic moments was when he first returned to Firelink through an elevator he'd never seen before. The connectivity of these games is one of the coolest parts in my opinion, and seeing the word Firelink across your screen as you wander around looking for a safe place to rest is an unparalleled moment I never get tired of seeing. So, when I decided I needed to make an illustration celebrating his Dark Souls trilogy experience, this image was one of the first to come to my mind. On the left are a few of those rudimentary ideas, like this first one, which had the four characters a lot closer to the edges of the frame. Or this one with just every single NPC I know he likes, or has a connection to across the games. I was even going to add Frampt and Patches in there. The three level-up women, Andre, Laurentius the Pyromancer, Greyrat, Gavlan, Oscar, and Hawkeye were included in that one too. but with the time constraints I have, it just wasn't feasible to have that many characters. Alternatively, the other really prevalent concept I'd been drawing out was more of a poster idea, with Wug's character down at the bottom touching a bonfire, and behind would be one favorite NPC and boss from each of the three games. This thought was so cool, and I really would love to do it someday. Maybe when he's finished more of the games, but who knows. But ultimately, I stuck with my first thought, albeit a little different. I picked four characters, three of his favorite NPCs, and of course, the man himself. I wanted a cozy, restful painting, a place to relax and swap stories with friends, just like his community on Discord and YouTube is for me. As you've probably noticed on screen, I had a really tough time drawing Wug's face. It's such a weird balancing act trying to make a real person recognizable in a more cartoony looking style. I even asked two of my friends in the community, Queth and Punch, to give me some feedback. Thanks you guys for the help, and a special shout out to Queth, who is always down to talk. You are absolutely stellar, Queth. The other tricky thing with drawing something like this is picking what hairstyle the person you're trying to draw will have. I started this piece in September of 2025 and finished it in between things in December a few months later. And during that span of time, Wugs changed his hairstyle a fair bit. I think I got pretty close to doing a kind of average what Wugs looked like through his playthrough of Dark Souls. At least I hope so. If you pause, you can see all of my little frustrated notes as I tried to figure it out. The next question I had to tackle was what clothes to draw him in. Wugs is known for his love of changing up his armor sets, so nothing really stuck out to me. I actually went and asked people in the spoiler section of our Discord what armor set I should use. Someone, and I don't remember who, I'm so sorry, suggested the Wanderer set from DS1 because it's the first set he ever wore in any of the games. This was the absolute perfect idea. More than anything, Wug's playthrough is about exploration. He wants to see into every nook and cranny, read every scrap of lore, and hear every bit of dialogue. Putting him in this set, and the fact that he chose this out of everything else in his first moments in the game, feels fated to me. The last thing I needed to figure out for this part of the illustration was what weapon to give him. Of course, there were favorites throughout the whole playthrough, but which was the most favorite? Can you tell I went a little nuts doing this? I just really wanted to make something that not only gave you a taste of the world I love so much, but be a good homage for a guy who made these games mean even more to me. So instead of sneaking around and trying to figure this one out, I just asked him. He settled on the Astora Greatsword in DS3, which is an excellent choice in my mind. Not only is it beautiful, but it packs a punch and connects players to the lore of the first game, as it's named after an area discussed there. But before we get any further, I need to backtrack a bit and explain who those other people are around the bonfire. At the bottom right of our group is a man named Sigvard of Katarina, or as we in the fandom like to call him, and the others in similar armor sets, the Onion Knight. Sigvard is an NPC you can encounter in the third Dark Souls game. He's funny and loyal and is always willing to share his signature Siegbrow with anyone. That's the tankard he's raising to the fire and his companions. I chose Sigvard as the TS3 character for my fire scene because of Wug's connection to him. Follow along his questline, you as a player work to help him fight off a few dangerous monsters, save him from a prison, and even fulfill a mighty promise. His story is epic with a lot of sweet and triumphant moments that are of course tinged with sadness. And I absolutely had to add his sword behind him, the awesome Storm Ruler. Wuggs really loved his storyline from what I can tell, and while he of course liked other characters too, Sigvard was definitely the highlight NPC for him, I believe. Next we have my favorite of the three. To the left of Sigvard is the only female character in this image. Her name is Lucatiel of Mira, and her game is Dark Souls 2. DS2 has a really bad reputation. The bosses are lackluster, and some of the mechanics are odd. While I haven't played any of them myself, the lore and storytelling of this second game make it my favorite. Of course, it has grand plots and sweeping arcs, but the focus on the plight of the people who live in this awful world, and the stories they tell as they begin to succumb to the dark side, it's just such a tragic masterpiece. Lucatiel herself is the focal point for this story, in my opinion. She is a renowned warrior who is losing her sense of self. Through the game, Wugs interacted with her over and over, and in each instance, she shared a bit more of her story. They worked together to fight off bosses and wade through enemies. And at one point, she got a little bit confused in Iron Keep, but that was a fun diversion. But it was those sad one on one moments where Lucatiel talked about how scared she was about losing herself. Those got me. She wears a mask in the game not only as part of her armor set, but to hide her dark mark, something all humans are born with. At the fire here, I wanted the mask to be discarded on the ground, not needed as she enjoys an evening with people she can trust. I'll definitely be talking about her more in my future Dark Souls 2 video. What can I say? I like the tragic but hardcore girls. Last in our little quartet is Solaire of Astora. He's perhaps the most iconic character in all of FromSoft. With his bucket-looking helmet and the sun symbol painted on his chest, he's a very recognizable figure. The first time you encounter him in the game, he's standing on a balcony gazing at the sun. He's the first character in the game that offers you not only words of encouragement, but a helping hand should you need it in the challenges to come. Wugs only called on him for one boss fight that I can remember, and boy was it a spectacle. Solaire uses miracle beams of light along with his sword and shield to fight, and it was so fun to see how surprised and delighted Wugs was while they worked together to beat the gaping dragon. Solaire, along with the others, of course has his own story and quest he is trying to achieve. He's a bright ray of sunlight in the dark world of Lordran, and even though his ending is a dark one, if you restart the game, he's always there to greet you and help you along again and again. The most poignant moment of Wug's playthrough that involves Solaire, however, is the moment he finally gets past the horrible archers in Anor Londo. If you know, you know. And stumbles into a room looking desperately for a bonfire to save his progress. Sitting at the fire there, in the exact same pose I've drawn him here, is Solaire. He shares words of congratulations and continued assistance, and even a joke. Solaire may be looking for his very own son, but to me and many people who love these games, he is a true light in the darkness. In our community on Wug's YouTube channel and Discord server, we use a little emote symbol of Solaire as a means to celebrate wins, share congratulations, and let people know we are rooting for them. He's a wonderful symbol, and that emote better stay part of the Forever Pack or I will riot. When I settled on an idea for this illustration, I quickly discovered a roadblock. I couldn't find the right reference photo for Firelink, the setting itself. I went through so much footage from multiple people's playthroughs to try and pause or get a screenshot of the angle I needed, but had no luck. I was telling some of my friends I was literally on the verge of buying the game just so I could walk around the area myself and take pictures, when one of my best buds, John, told me about this VR Firelink someone had made. It was absolutely perfect, and I'll share some of the pics he took in there for me. Whoever made this, thank you so much, and massive thank you to John for the awesome workaround. But honestly, I might end up playing this game someday. I've watched at least a dozen playthroughs of it, so maybe it wouldn't be as scared to play it myself. But I get stressed out in Breath of the Wild, so maybe not. When I draw, I tend to only paint characters. I'm getting better at that, and have been painting more scenes as you can see in my other videos. But this piece put me through the ringer. I really dislike drawing buildings, but thought these ruins wouldn't be too bad, and surely since I have a lot of fond memories of this place, I'd end up having a nice time, right? Wrong. Doing all of those bricks were so fiddly, and I kept going back and forth about how much detail to add. I think the main issue was that it was too much. I should have tackled it in bite-sized pieces and found better references of stone walls. But alas, that will have to be knowledge future Amber gets to use. As I worked on this piece a few hours a week, with days or sometimes weeks in between when I had a bit to spare on it, I started to realize what the main issue with the painting itself was. The values and, thus, the colors. Surprisingly, though, I wasn't really at fault for that. In the screenshots I'm sharing of Firelink on the left here, you can maybe see the issue. FromSoft games tend to be pretty drab in color. They like gray, and use it liberally everywhere they can. They also like things to be very washed out and dark, so painting these places faithfully can make an illustration look pretty muddy. Even though I'd chosen the right colors in my painting, the same ones they used in the game, lightening the ruins I think really helped. Now, they weren't the same value as the grass or the characters themselves. It also made that wall and doorway seem further away, which was very helpful, as I'd purposely made the characters around the fire larger than they would actually be. I wanted you to be able to see the details and their expressions, so I needed to fudge things just a little bit. I was tempted to add Frampt there, a large worm creature that looks like a deranged Muppet, as that way leads to his area, but held myself back. This is a serious painting filled with genuine fan art, and while I love Frampt, his face doesn't really fit with the vibes I was going for. There are a few last things I wanted to say here before my final thoughts. Last year, Wug's wife Summer played Dark Souls for the first time. It was so fun being there on live streams every Thursday night as she bulldozed her way through the game. During her playthrough, I couldn't help but make a few pieces of fan art, which I'll share here. Early on in the game, she came across a widely dismissed boss. One of those ones that felt like it was put there just to take up space. But for Summer, this was a huge moment. The Moonlight Butterfly became her favorite thing in the game, and kind of set the tone for how she was going to play. Her love for something I'd totally taken for granted really inspired me, so I decided to draw her with her super cute buns hairstyle, in a dress that was inspired by the boss butterfly itself. Her nails and those little blue butterflies around her are the same color as the boss's laser beams it shoots at you. And the held up golden flask is a fun inside joke we as a community adopted instantly and still use to this day. The next piece of fan art was not something I really planned, it just sort of happened. There was a moment in a later stream where Summer encountered another character in game that not a lot of players really think much about. It's a massive undead dragon clinging to a cliff in a dark ravine. When Summer met it and it tried to puke its horrible poison vomit on her, she couldn't help but feel sorry for it. She affectionately named him Gorbus, and he's become another mascot of her playthrough. We as a live chat were losing our minds. No one had previously really cared about this rotting dragon, and of course most of us love Solaire, the character I've drawn here with the sun shirt, but Summer thought differently. To her, Gorbus is just a little guy, and Solaire is a suspicious and pathetic man. I just had to draw the contrast in a mini comic, so this illustration was born. Final image I did for Summer Souls, what we as a community call her streams, was this massive thumbnail I'll throw up on the screen. Wugs actually commissioned this for her as a gift on her last evening in the game. This was an absolute dream commission, guys. Draw one of the coolest streamers I know, dominating a ton of Dark Souls bosses and enemies, and include as many Easter eggs and inside jokes as I want from the playthrough, and I get paid. It was very much a win-win for Amber. I massively recommend watching her whole playthrough. Summer isn't a gamer, and she's never played a combat game until Dark Souls 1. It was so inspiring watching her play every week and get to see her confidence soar as she learned to avoid hits, dismantle bosses, parry, and persevere through the most difficult things the game has to offer. I'm also so glad that I got to help a few times with the death counting. Arc and Punch, who do it regularly, you guys are champs. Thank you to Summer for such a fun and incredible series of streams. You will always be our parry goddess. I know this video is kind of weird. I'm a book illustration channel, right? And yes, I dabble in telling you stories from other mediums like video games, and in the future, we will be diving into musicals and shows and movies. But this is a little more specific than I tend to get. This is someone's individual playthrough of a game after all, not the game itself. And it's not even mine, like it was in my Animal Crossing video. But I think it still fits perfectly with my channel's concept. Here, I share the stories I love through illustration. And boy, does Wug's run of the Dark Souls trilogy count in my mind. In the dozen or so playthroughs I've seen of these games, there is one that warranted its own video. Like I said earlier, the fact that he chose the Wanderer set as his first ever armor in the game is just perfect. Most of the people I've seen play these games have no idea what the story is about. They rush through and try to fight the tough bosses and get crushed by Sen's fortress, scarred in frigid outskirts, and dismembered in the Dragon Sanctuary, all while mildly bewildered by everything, just going towards the next obstacle. This is absolutely not a wrong way to play any of these games at all. In fact, for a lot of the streamers I watch who play these, learning the story of what's really going on isn't even interesting to them. And that's totally fine. When Wug's videos started showing up in my YouTube feed, I thought he was someone who played the games like that. Everyone else I'd ever seen had done it that way. And I didn't click on the videos. In fact, several of his videos came across my homepage and I never clicked. Until I saw one of him with the covetous demon from Dark Souls 2. This gave me pause. Wasn't this the same guy I'd seen doing Dark Souls 1 stuff, I thought? But most people don't play DS2, after they just jump straight to 3. This intrigued me as a staunch DS2 lover. I started watching his videos shortly after. While the first few definitely felt like most people's playthroughs, just a mad and confused scramble trying to survive, there was already something different here. Wugs loves to interact with his community, getting vague tips and hints from the comments on things he may have missed. He's so appreciative of the people who watch his content, trying to remember names and replying to everything he can. Partway through his Dark Souls 2 playthrough, he set up a whiteboard in the background of his set. There, he adds every little crumb of story he can find, connecting it all with lines, erasing and adding as needed. The effort he makes to try and piece things together is incredible, and those moments where things click are priceless. That lore board has continued through each game since, and is one of my favorite things on the channel. His videos are also very well edited, with great jump cuts going from hitting one enemy to another, chapter titles and music, and having beginnings and endings to each video. You can just feel the passion he has, not only for the games, but in making an awesome playthrough for people to watch. There is an extreme example I'll share of this where he was fighting his way through an area called An Orlando. When he reached the bosses, something glitched and he lost all of the sound. It must have been so stressful and devastating, but instead of releasing it as is or scrapping it entirely, he added the music back in and even went through to find every individual noise he could. Those he couldn't acquire, he made himself with his mouth. It was hilarious and such a testament to how committed he is as a creator. As I add the last 5 final touches here, I just want to say a few things to the man himself. Wugs, thanks for being you. We as a community love sharing our favorite games with you. We love to leave comments, and just like the notes in the games themselves, we'll always be around with hints, tips, and maybe a bit of backseating. While I couldn't of course draw everybody in the community in this video, I wanted something symbolic to put us all there at the bonfire, along with your favorite NPCs. Our words are what make it through to you, so using the in-game messages made sense to me. I'm so glad to be at the bonfire with you all and wanted to wish you the happiest of birthdays, Wugs. With that, let's take a closer look at the finished piece. Woot! Another video finished and another illustration in the world. Obviously, I highly recommend checking out Wug's channel. It'll be linked below. Thank you all for watching and for your patience as I worked to get this video out while I was sick. Hopefully that won't happen again anytime soon, but I'm so grateful you guys are willing to wait when it does. Have a great rest of your day or night, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!